Okay, so I'm going to have a conversation now that may make some people very uncomfortable. It's a conversation, though, that we as a society need to have, and I hope you sit down and I hope you watch the next part of this broadcast. It's about words, like some of these words here, this word, you know, but mostly about this word. About the word, I'm going to say the word during this too, nigger, honky, cracker. These words can cause a visceral reaction when people hear them. You may have even flinched when I said them. But they played a pivotal role in two major stories this week, the George Zimmerman murder trial and the allegations around celebrity chef Paula Deen. It's a catalyst for an honest and difficult conversation. That's all we're trying to do here, is to get people to talk about it, okay? So we're going to have a discussion here without censorship, without code words, without awkwardness. And we've got a group of people to help drive this conversation. Buck Davis is a diversity and inclusion expert. Marc Lamont Hill is a professor at Columbia University. And human behavior expert Wendy Walsh. They've got a lot to say about this particular subject. But first, let's take a look at how we got here. This classic Saturday Night Live sketch ran unbleeped in 1975.
Jungle Bunny.
Pack of wood. Birdhead. Cracker.
But it probably wouldn't run today. Why? Have we lost our sense of humor?
What was so profound about that sketch wasn't just that they got away with using, let's say, the N-word and a lot of other racial slurs, but what that sketch really demonstrated was that certain slurs there are simply no trump cards for, and the N-word is one of them.
All over words, Paula Deen is losing her TV job and millions in endorsement money.
Inappropriate, hurtful language is totally unacceptable.
And the prosecution in the George Zimmerman murder trial could lose credibility, all because of the words a witness says Martin used to describe the man who shot him.
Creepy ass cracker?
Yes.
So it was racial, but it was Trayvon Martin put race in this.
No.
You don't think that's a racial comment?
No.
You don't think that creepy ass cracker is a racial comment?
No.
Is there really a difference between witness Rachel Jeantel and Paula Deen's racism denials?
The difference is a difference of about 47 years. You know,
Anti-racism activist Tim Wise.
I think to expect a 19-year-old to know the history of a term like cracker, as opposed to a 66-year-old knowing the history of the N-word, is just a ridiculous comparison, obviously.
And did Martin bring race into it by using the term?
The problem with that argument is that, first of all, it's comparing, you know, to be on point with this case, it's like comparing Skittles and a handgun. They simply don't have the same power.
Is he right? We took the words to the people on the street.
They're both derogatory and they're both racist, but it's just not the feeling I get inside from when I hear that word and when I hear the word is just different. You understand? I guess it's a psychological thing.
If someone were to call me a honky or cracker, I don't think it would offend me as much as this word offends other people, and from my experience.
And if you hear other people saying this word or this word as opposed to that word, this still offends you more?
Yes.
Even if it's a black person calling a white person those words?
Yes.
Someone saying the N-word
I'm
offends you
being
more?
completely honest, yes.
Honesty just might be the answer, according to Columbia University professor Marc Lamont Hill, who says we shouldn't be censoring this SNL clip.
Spade. Honky honky. Nigger. Dead honky.
I think we hurt ourselves as a community, as a country, as a group of people really trying to improve the racial circumstances in this nation by running from these words, by censoring these words, and by simply throwing people away as soon as they use them.
All right, so let's bring our panel in now. Buck Davis is in Atlanta, Marc Lamont Hill is in New York, and then Wendy Walsh is in Los Angeles. Okay, so you saw me out on the street with the cards, with the words, right? So Wendy, let's talk about this, the most powerful.
Too afraid to even say the words, weren't you?
Yeah, go ahead. So, go ahead. Let's talk about the most powerful one.
Okay,
Why do you think it makes people so uncomfortable?
Well, let's talk in general about what a taboo word is, okay? So it's a word that's been socially prohibited, and it tends to be prohibited both individually and institutionally. It's policed by authorities who literally punish people who use it, like we're seeing with Paula Deen, and maybe even in the courtroom, with the Zimmerman courtroom. So the taboo words are out there, but the thing that helps them retain their power, Don, is their non-usage. So the more they become taboo, the more they keep their power, and we get even more nervous about using them. Of course, now we're seeing a word, specifically the N-word, that is having different contextual uses. Different populations are using it in different ways. It may not have anger. So behavioralists are having, or people who research this, are having a hard time determining harm by the usage, and that's the main thing. Can we determine harm?
So Wendy, listen, I said the word, and you said the N-word. Do you think it's different? Like, do you have trouble saying that as a white woman?
Yeah, and you know, I think you and I had this conversation on the phone last week, is it because my children are biracial, and they're young, and they're trying to figure out how to use words, and they have friends of many different ethnicities, of course. My 10-year-old said the other day, well, Mom, if you're not allowed to say the N-word, but Daddy is, what's the rule for me? So what do you tell a multiracial child?
Yeah. Okay, so
and I didn't really have a good, clear answer.
Mark, so do you think we hurt ourselves by not using these words? Because I have to tell you, when I was researching this, you saw the SNL clip, right? And they said, you know, he goes nigger, and then the guy, and he does it. I've watched the Jeffersons, and they would say, you know, you remember back, what was the saying that they used to say? Nigger, please. Like. Yeah. They said that on television in the 70s, but we can't say it now.
But black people said it because we moved into this post-racial ideology, this colorblind ideology that says if we don't talk about race, if we don't name race, if we don't speak certain racialized terms, and somehow the world will be racially better, and it's simply not true. I don't have a problem with a sitcom or with you as an esteemed journalist using the N-word in context because it has explanatory value. Do I think that white people should be using it? Absolutely not. Do I think someone with a biracial son should be confused about this? Absolutely not. I always find it remarkable that white people find the N-word usage such a complicated puzzle. It's not that complicated. Just don't use it. You just have to accept. Well, let me finish the thought though. You just have to accept that there's some things in the world, just at least one thing that you can't do that black people can, and that might just be okay.
Wait, I'm not talking about me. Wait. I'm not talking about me in particular. But what about the huge consumers? What about the huge consumers of hip-hop who have been exposed to a new sort of reclaimed usage of the word through music? So when a teenage boy uses it with his teenage friend as a term of endearment, I mean, I'm not fighting to use the word, but he's a consumer of hip-hop.
No, but Mark, I hear white kids said, I have to tell you, I was in Ohio in October, coming up on the election, and I was with a white kid in his late teens, early 20s in college. He was talking to another white friend, and they both were calling each other that term, and I was like, at first he was on the phone with him, and I thought he was talking to his black friend. And then we went and met him, and he was talking to his white friend. So it's not just black people using that word as a term of endearment.
I would be happy if no one used the word as a term of endearment. All I'm saying is that white teenager, that white 20-something should learn that, yes, you can listen to the music, yes, you can hear those words, but it doesn't mean you have to repeat them, because the truth is they can turn that music down and pull their pants up, and why are white people fighting so fiercely for the right to use the N-word? Just let it go.
I know one white person who's fighting fiercely to have a say in this, and that's Buck Davis. So Buck, go ahead.
I have trouble comparing those words, Don, because you can't compare the stories behind those words. So let's take cracker, for instance. If anybody calls me a cracker, big deal. There's no power associated with it. You call me a honky, there's no privilege, no power associated with it. Now, if generations of my people had been systematically, categorically discriminated against, and some of them lynched while mobs of people screamed, "Kill the honky," "Goodbye, cracker," that would be different for me. The narrative around the N-word carries so much evil attached to it that for many of us in the majority, we have a hard time connecting to the depth of the pain. That word has been used to demoralize, dehumanize to paralyze and sometimes kill groups of people. And from what I know from my friends and family who are people of color around the country, when they hear that word, it cuts to the bone.
Buck Davis, Marc Lamont Hill, Wendy. Stand by. We're going to continue that right after a quick break.
I'm still going to sing in my car to music I paid for.
Right after a quick break. We'll be back and we'll hear Wendy. So Wendy, you know, when you said that, you reminded me of the Chris Rock skit where he's talking about when he's with his white friends and the rap song is on, and when he gets to the part for the N-word, they're like, nah, nah, and then they start whispering, and he goes, I know when they're in their car alone or they're home alone, they're screaming it to the top of their lungs. You're still going to sing along and say the word. Why you think that's okay?
Well, my kids and I follow this great YouTuber who tells us to insert a W, so we say wigga when we sing. But that's our way of doing it. But let me tell you this, we have to think about context here. We're talking about specifics of one word, but let's talk about taboo words in general. The one that hurts me the most, by the way, is the C word. But when people say it, it illuminates to me what it tells me more about them than me. But we have to consider, you know, if beauty is in the eye of the beholder, then the power to harm is in the ear of the listener. And the truth is, the most dangerous thing about a racist culture is not individual acts of discrimination that happen. It's actually an overall, an internalized, psychological, internalized sense of feeling less than in a culture because of how media may portray things. So if you're walking around with this internalized sense because you look at every magazine and it's got people that do not look like your family on the covers, then of course, when you hear that word, there's more chance it will feel more painful.
I'll tell you, Don, I think one of the reasons why so many people are unnerved because Paula Deen admitted to saying that she said the N-word is because I think a lot of white people are still using the N-word. And if you're calling her racist because she admitted to saying it a long time ago, and if you don't say it, then I'm not talking to you. But if people, I think people are rattled because if you're calling her racist because she admitted to saying it, then you are calling me a racist because I'm still using it, and that's what is lighting a fire, I believe, for a lot of Americans who don't want to hear that they're maybe using words that are associated with racism.
And I think you're right about that, because when we have this discussion, when we talk about Paula Deen, there are people immediately, because you're just telling the story and having a conversation around it, immediately on social media calling you a reverse racist. And I always say, there is no such thing as a reverse racist. That would mean that you're fair to everyone. And you can there's no such thing as reverse racism. You're a racist. But just by having that conversation, I think you're right. But here's what I have to say. If you listen to people who support Paula Deen or who don't, their problem is really not with the N-word that she said a few years ago. Their problem is with her seemingly not understanding the cultural references and what is wrong with what she did, and wanting to us, seemingly by coming on television, to feel sorry for the position that she's in and not to feel sorry for her. And people are feeling sorry for her actually because she's so ignorant about what she's not understanding about
It's also a contradiction of her brand. She is a brand of comfort. She is nurturing. She is nice, she's fun, she's loving, and then for us to hear her say that and not really take full responsibility and be remorseful about it, it's really shocking for us.
Okay. Hey, listen.
It's shocking for some of us.
For some of us, okay.
Okay, yes, shocking for some people. Right. Go ahead, real quickly. Go ahead, Mark.
No, this is exactly what I expect, though, from someone like Paula Deen, because her whole brand is built on the cultural legacy of black folk and black labor and black work. She's just exploiting it and making money off of it. In other words, treating us like the N-word. So I'm not surprised at all, and that's the problem. There's always a relationship between what people say and what they do, and that's why the N-word troubles me so much when white folk use it.
Okay, I have to say this, and listen, I don't think that Paula Deen should, I'm saying my personal opinion on CNN as an anchor, I don't think Paula Deen should be fired. I think that it should be, the marketplace should decide. If you don't like Paula Deen, then you shouldn't buy her products. I don't think anyone should be fired for freedom of speech. Right. Yeah, but the marketplace, not true.
No,
I was going to go to break.
No,
that's not true. That's not true. The marketplace did not decide. Her bosses decided. Corporate America decided. People bought her books. She's number one. Yeah, but they thought it was bad business, but it's not bad business if her books are number one. How do they know what the ratings are going to be the next time Paula Deen comes on, unless they give her the opportunity to come on television again? But that's still not the marketplace. People on Twitter hate all the time.
I agree with you, Don.
Okay, so listen.